The Aochuang WR is a modified Aochuang GTS. It carries over a feature from the GTS where the second layer has a huge protrusion that enters the third layer's base. The second layer pieces are much bigger internally than they appear on the surface, and they are much more difficult to slide out of place than other brands' 5x5s. The MGC5 is a 魅影 to 夜小 transformation applied to a 5x5. This transformation involves removing the center stock, replacing it with a small pillar inside the center piece. This frees up extra space in the inner part of the mechanism, which allows the second and outer layer pieces to extend deeper into the cube. Valk 5 is a modified Aochuang. It features a double anchor, but the second layer has an additional spike that digs under the outer layer. Okay, all three cubes cut almost the same angles, although I would say that the Aochuang cuts slightly better than the other two. So for the outermost 1x1 cuts, all three of them will go close to 45. But when you talk about the reverse corner cut, the Aochuang can do about slightly more than one piece. While the MGC and Valk, at most they do exactly one piece. So like, okay, maybe not exactly, but slightly under a piece. If you try to do more than one, the cube doesn't reverse cut. And then for the other inner layers, the Aochuang also does a slightly better job, although it's really not that much. So for the 2x1 cut, it can actually go slightly beyond one piece as well. Whereas with the other two, if you go by that amount, the cube would not cut right through. However, if you just go exactly one piece, you really don't have a problem. So it's really only that small range of angles where you can feel the difference. And then for the second layer here, this one I would say is the most stable one because like the piece inside here has this extension, so like it's really quite hard for it to slide out of place. But with the MGC, you can also cut about the same amount, but if you exceed, you will get a deforming lockup, and the same can be said about the Valk. If you exceed that value, you will get a deforming lockup. But then if you don't exceed, which is just very little, just slightly less, you will just cut through right fine. I mean, yeah. And then lastly, the 2x1 cuts, which I would say that they're all really comparable to each other. Next, for the speed, the Aochuang speed is basically the middle ground of all these three 5x5s. It's definitely faster than the Valk, but slightly slower than the MGC. I did throw a little bit of gravitas in the second layer just to stick the middles together, but otherwise this cube is at its natural speed. The MGC5 is one that was too fast to sensibly use out of the box, and the only reason why I'm able to control it now is because I threw in a bit of gravitas into both the outer and inner layers. But even then, I just purposely use a very small amount so that this cube still remains really fast. But at least the speed is sensible and usable, and now I really have no problems with the speed of this cube at all. The Valk 5 is just like the slowest one out of the three with the most friction in its turning field, but it's still like faster than most of the 5x5s that came out before, like in terms of speed. Okay, for magnets, the Aochuang definitely has the weakest magnets of the three. And then yeah, because of that, it has a really soft and like not just the weakest magnets, but it also has the smoothest and silkiest plastic. So it has the softest and silkiest feel out of all three of these tubes. And I don't exactly remember 100% what the Aochuang WR feels like, but this definitely reminds me of my Aochuang GTS, like the 6x6, and I generally think that this is the nicest feel for doing very, very long sessions, or just for doing bigger cubes like 6x6 plus. When I say long sessions, I mean like 50 to 60 solves. And then for the MGC5, I would say this cube just has stronger magnets and thinner plastic than the Aochuang WR, and the cube that is most similar to this is the MGC6. In comparison to the other two 5x5s, I would say the MGC5 it would be the middle ground. Like, this is choppier than the Aochuang WR, but smoother than the Valk 5 in terms of turning, and also in terms of magnet strength. The Valk 5 were the strongest magnets of the three, and also the most like choppiest turning out of the three. But like the turning style offered by the Valk 5 is most similar to my 4x4 main, the Beilong, and like this style is really good for spamming TPS in short bursts in small cubes such as like 4x4 and below. But like for 6x6 and up, I generally do prefer the lighter style, and like 5x5 is like the middle ground where whether it's the Valk 5's turning style, the Aochuang turning style, the MGC turning style, I feel that all three of them really would just work very well. The Aochuang's size is, in my opinion, a huge minus point to the cube's performance. So it measures 61.5mm across, making it the smallest one out of all three. So you can see the MGC and Valk are similar in size, but the Aochuang is slightly smaller than the MGC, and it looks slightly smaller only, but when you pick it up and do turns, like you can really feel the size difference. And while I do like smaller cubes, like especially for 4x4, because I'm using a 59mm cube as my main, like I do feel that 5x5 is a different game altogether compared to 4x4, because the pieces are just a lot smaller than they are on the 4x4, especially the outer layer. And this really, like, in order to have a good outer layer to grab during the 3x3 stage especially, I do find that the Aochuang is a little bit harder to control due to the size. And like I did lose my grip a lot at the beginning when I first started doing my solves on this cube, but like over time as I did more solves on Aochuang, my timings did improve until it's at least comparable to the Valk. I do think 62 is a better size than 61.5. Like I really have no problems with the size of the MGC and the Valk. The Aochuang is the most difficult one to get a deforming lockup on because like of the internal structure, but at the same time it's also the easiest one to squish out of shape, especially if you're doing RUL turning. For the MGC, this one is the magnets make it a little bit more stable when you're doing RUL turning, so it doesn't feel that bad. But then at the same time, it's also the easiest cube to deform. For the Valk is in the middle in terms of how easily it deforms. But then at the same time, it's the most stable one in terms of just the absolute like turning itself. So especially when you're doing outer layer turns during your 3x3 stage, the remaining 4 layers will just feel like a block whenever you turn one layer. I know I have been overly positive about the Aochuang WR when I first unboxed it, because like that was a prediction based on all the reviews I watched, and many people who I watch actually have like really good times on this cube, maybe even PBs. But after trying out the cube for myself, my personal top pick is actually the MGC5. And then the Valk and the Aochuang are still really good cubes. I would recommend the Aochuang if you want something small and if you want a bit more speed and smoothness. For the Valk, it would be more appropriate for people who want more control, and then I do think that in general, like the Aochuang WR gives me a very nice centers plus cross stage, very nice edge pairing stage. But when I reach the 3x3 stage, the cube flexes a bit more than I would like, and the small size is like doing more harm than good for me, and like it just makes the cube a bit harder to control. While the Valk, which is like it just requires a bit more force to turn, and it's slightly more stiff than the other two, so generally my TPS is not as high. The MGC does give me the best balance between speed and control, and if I didn't already own my Valk 5 before the other two come out, and if I had to repick a main from these three, then I would pick the MGC.
Valk.